All right, thank you all for being here today. We are going to start our Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. We'll begin with a call to order. And second is a roll call. So David, would you please take us
Ayers.
there?
Here.
Brisbane.
Here.
Tice.
Here.
Zierden. And Weaver.
Here. All right, let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll start with approval or amendment of the agenda. If you've all reviewed the agenda, does anyone have any amendments, or do we have a motion to approve?
I would move its approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed. Next item is an open forum. If there is anyone here that would like to voice any concerns or questions, please approach the bench and state your name and address. All right. Nobody is here for that, so we're going to close the open forum and move on to approval of the November 11th, 2023 regular Planning Commission meeting minutes. So if we've all reviewed the minutes, are there any adjustments to it, or do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, approval of minutes has passed. Moving on to new business. First item on the agenda is the election of the chair and co-chair.
Yes, Madam Chair. So as is the practice, at your first meeting of each year, the commission from amongst yourselves needs to elect a chair and then a vice chair to serve in the chair's absence for the year 2024.
So do we have any nominations for chair or co-chair? Or vice chair, I should say.
If she's willing to continue, I would nominate Marcy Weaver as chair.
All right. Do we do a motion on that, David?
I would say first see if there's any other nominations.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
No.
All right.
And then you would need a motion to have Marcy become the chair again, or remain chair, I guess.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I would move that Marcy Weaver become chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do we have a second?
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion has passed. Then we need a nomination or nominations for vice chair.
Well, I'll nominate Lee. He did a good job last year, so.
We have a nomination. Any other nominations? All right, then we will, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Do we have a
Lee
second?
advice.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion has passed. Moving on to item B for new business. We have a conditional use permit application, C24001, for Scott Hemmer, 9131 Ossa Winnipesaukee Road, Breezy Point, Lot 15, Block 1, First Edition to Sunset Strip, parcel 14831. Construct a 14 by 40 square foot structure, 20 feet in height in a zone R2.
Okay, Madam Chair, before we get going, I'm just going to take the quick opportunity to introduce everyone to Peter Ganson. He's our new Planning and Zoning Administrator, new full-time administrator. I think, as you all know, was included as part of the 2024 budget. I wanted to thank Madam Chair, who's helped us with our interview process this last fall while we were interviewing a number of good candidates. Ultimately, we felt that Peter was the best man for the job. Peter robbed him from the city of Cross Lake, so we're very happy to have Peter and his 17 plus years of experience in planning and zoning with us. Peter started on January 2nd, so he is officially at 1 week.
Congratulations.
So with that, Madam Chair, I guess we'll go through the normal process and go ahead and open up the public hearing, and I'll hand it over to Peter from here on out.
All right, sounds great. So we will open the public hearing. If the applicant is here and would like to approach the podium, you're welcome to state your name, address, and share details about your request. And I am actually not seeing an applicant here, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next phase and go through the application internally. So Peter, would you mind kind of taking us through that?
Sounds good, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the council, public notice was sent out per Minnesota Statute 462 for the conditional use permit for the Scott Hemmer project at 9131 Assamakinawickee Road, Breezy Point, Minnesota, Lot 15, Block 1. Notice was given out and no public notice was received for neighbors or government agencies. Continuing on to the staff report for the conditional use application 2024-001. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit that's listed in Chapter 153.032, which requires a conditional use permit to construct an accessory structure of 1,400 square feet and a height of 20 feet. And in your packet is a survey and then some different views of the building, elevations of the building. And then I also have a page of the ordinance that I printed off that requires the conditional use permit for an accessory structure in this residential district for any size that is in excess of 1,280 square feet. And that includes conditional use permits up to 1,600 square feet. Typically, we see a conditional use like this that we recommend approval for them if there is no findings that are injurious to the public or any outstanding violations on the land or the property involved, and if the applicant can meet the conditions and if the Board of Commissioners has any additional conditions to put on the applicant. I think what we'll do is I would like to go through the findings towards the end when a motion is made to go through the findings, and then we'll adopt those into record if that works with the council. And then some of the conditions proposed in the staff report, we'd only like to look at doing 2 of them, a siding and roofing of the principal structure and accessory structure to be similar in materials and color, and then the height of the accessory structure not to exceed 20 feet to the midpoint of the roof as presented in the application. That concludes the staff report. If you have any questions on that, please let me know.
So the 5 conditions, you say we should only do 2? Why not keep the, the permit, the setbacks? It's really, it's redundant, but
You can
should be
certainly
in.
keep those on there, and that's perhaps discussion we'd have later on in staff report and stuff like that, because I see some of the conditions, whereas unlike, say, an applicant, that we say they have a condition where they have to abide by the floodplain.
Right.
And it's like, they have to do that anyway.
Right.
Like I saw one in here where it said the applicant needs to get a building permit, and that's pretty inherent. They have to get a permit, and we don't need to.
We know that.
Yeah,
Do they know that?
absolutely.
Hopefully, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Now, there's a couple spots, it's 1,600 square feet, correct? The building's 40 by 40. Because on the front page, it said 1,440, and then another page, it said 1,400, so it is 1,600.
So, you should have a site plan in here.
Yeah, it shows 40 by 40 on the floor plan, if you see that.
It's that one there, and it shows the garage.
So-
10. Or that one shows it too.
So, yeah,
And the impervious is, since it's such a big lot, is really not a concern, because I think it was like 11%. It was
Yeah.
pretty. The nice thing I like about this building, it's only got 12-foot sidewalls, so it doesn't look like an airplane hangar sitting out in the middle of the lot,
And it looks like the materials and everything else that they're doing seems congruent with.
There is several of them on that road that are like metal structures, 16-foot sidewalls and so forth, so.
So Peter, with the applicant not being here, would you recommend that when we approve this to use the site plan and say 40 by 40 and anything larger than that, if they did plan to exceed that they would have to come back?
Absolutely. We have them published at 1440 square feet. So, yeah, if they wanted something different, it would be the applicant's responsibility to represent that. So
that's gotta be changed to 1,600, huh?
So where are you seeing the 1,600? On their site plan, they have this,
Well, it's, on the floor plan, it's 40 by 40, that's 1,600 square feet, that's, and the survey is 40 by 40, so it's all, which is the max, so that's good, I mean, he's, oh, the one,
well,
well, look at this is,
yeah, I see it there on that.
Peter, this
I
is
could
what
barely
he's
see
looking
it.
at.
Yeah, see, look at the hand drawn.
but their elevations are wrong.
You talking about the 36?
Yeah, yeah.
But then if you add the door and you look over to the
Oh,
left.
yeah, you're right.
Put 8
Yeah,
inches.
3-foot door, yeah.
I saw
But it
that
is
too.
40 by 40.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that there's anything in the actual application itself that indicated the size
The
of the garage.
size, no.
So on something like this, you could approve it at 1,600 square feet because that is allowed by ordinance through the conditional use. So the applicant, if they were here tonight, we would ask them, to provide testimony to that request. If, typically in a situation like a variance, we'd want to republish that because it is different than what's been published. So a neighbor would say, well, hey, I would have showed up if I knew it was going to be,
That much bigger.
that much bigger, whereas, and I believe this, you're covered under both ways, being that ordinance does allow conditional use permit up to 1,600 square feet. If we were hearing a variance to go over that size, I would say we would need to republish it. So you can consider the 1,600 square feet. I was looking at his hand-drawn sketch in here that's at 1,440 square feet, which was written in by the applicant. And the council could handle that as well too and say, that's the size we're gonna approve, is 1,440. That certainly is germane for consideration. Being that 1,600 square feet is allowed as a conditional use permit, staff doesn't really have a strong feeling that they would have to reduce it to that size, so.
So you must have we don't have a copy of the handwritten.
There was a number of stuff that.
Oh, okay.
We
That's
apologize.
fine.
This packet was a little bit of, we had influenza pretty much wipe out City Hall last week. And so Peter and I were trying to do this packet last Friday and we hadn't had Deb in 3 days. And I will say to add to Peter too, again, the CUP, that's like a maximum allowable. So if
Yeah.
the commission is comfortable with 1,600 and the applicant only wanted 1,400, they can build 1,400. They just can't exceed
Right.
16. But if you put it at 1440, then
Then
that's the amount, they'd have to come back and ask for an amendment to the CUP to get up to the 16.
So we would be better to keep it at 16, and
If you're comfortable with the 1,600.
I would be, but,
Yeah. Does anyone here have anything they're uncomfortable with or need clarification on?
no.
All right, well, let's open the floor for public input. If anyone would like to come to the podium and share public input, feel free to state your name and address.
Come on, Tom. You gotta have something.
Tom Lye, 7460 Fairway Lane. The only question I have is this one of the properties that is part of the detachment sewer?
David would know, I think it might be, huh?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I think Sunset is one of the,
Whether or not they're one of the signatories, though, I'm not sure.
I thought it was a.
I don't know if every single property signed on to that
Okay,
or not.
whatever. That's the only question I have.
All right, thank you, Tom.
At least we got some input.
We appreciate your input tonight. All right, well, we're going to then close the open forum for public input, and we'll move on to the commission. Do we have anyone wanting to make a motion at this point?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve, but adding number 6 for 1,600 square feet. But I know it says it right above it, but that's just general knowledge, right?
So let me recap what we'd be looking at then for a motion would be to approve the CUP,
Right.
stating that the applicant would obtain a building permit, will comply with all setback requirements, that the siding and roofing of the principal structure and accessory structure will be of similar materials and color as noted in the packet. All structures will comply with state building code. Height of the accessory structure will not exceed 20 feet to the midpoint of the roof, and that the size would be up to 1,600 square feet on a parcel of 2 acres or less.
Correct.
So we have a motion for that. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion has passed. All right, moving on then to any old business. All right, moving on to staff reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just throw a couple things out there, and then if Peter has anything, I'll hand it over to him. A couple things coming from the City Council. As you can see, we have no Councilmember Jensen tonight. At the Council's meeting on January 2nd, per state statute, and their first meeting of the year, they always have to set an organizational meeting, just as you had appointed chair. They had to do a bunch of appointments and such. And during that meeting, the council discussed the liaison roles and ultimately decided to abolish them, at least for this year. And pretty much council members decided, any council member, if you want to, always encourage them to watch recordings of meetings. If anyone wants to attend a meeting, they can. But they did not appoint specific council members to be a specific liaison, and kind of leaving that to staff to kind of liaison between committees and commissions and the council.
I have a
So that's
question
fine.
on that.
Yeah.
So if we have something, I know we've had some more contentious type things that have come up, could we request to have somebody come in to report if we have questions on council, or do we do that separately?
Yeah, so if you have something potentially contentious coming up, obviously the council would probably know about it, we make it clear. But yes, if you knew it was coming ahead of time, yeah, we can always, if you wanted to make a request that a council member be present, whether it's, have the council pick someone, be the mayor specifically, whoever, you absolutely can make that request. In a contentious, I know part of their discussion, if there's a contentious issue, they might even choose to attend on their own. But yeah, we could do
That's
that.
kind of like the White Birch, we approved that, and the city council approved what we approved to rezone that. Would you have a city council member? No, you wouldn't really need it, would you?
No, so that's where we as staff would kind of say, here's what the planning commission did, at a
Yeah.
council meeting, Peter would be that person to come and say, here's, if it's something like a rezoning that you make the recommendation, council makes the final approval, Peter would be that one, that'd be his item on that agenda to say, here's what the issue is, this is what the planning commission's recommending, and would be that liaison in between the two. That's how that would work. It's very similar to essentially how it works now anyway.
Okay.
Really no true structural change, so. On that, so thank you for bringing that up, update on the rezoning for the White Birch, this is off of Chickasaw. The council you made the recommendation back in August for that. The council did end up approving it finally in January. That was actually one of those things actually requested by White Birch to kind of push that off. If you remember, one of your recommendations was that the city look into potentially using this as an opportunity to extend sewer into Chickasaw, because by rezoning it from R2 to R4, R4 and wanting that townhome development requires municipal sewer. So we're taking that time to look in, how do we get sewer to those lots? And then what would it take to get, not just service the lots, but then also get to the sewer in Chickasaw? And then they have the council have that discussion. They ultimately opted not to extend sewer at this point, and then just have White Birch as the developer. They're responsible for getting whatever sewer that they need to those properties. So, but yes, they did approve that in January. I know White Birch is still looking at beginning construction on those townhome units in the spring. The last two things I have are both regarding city council workshops coming up. So the next 2 Tuesdays, so January 16th and January 23rd, the city council does have a workshop. On the 16th, that workshop is specifically to receive the organizational assessment report. So back last August during the budget discussions, the idea, I think it was Councilmember Scott brought up the idea of having an organizational assessment done, really looking at organization, staffing, our service provision, kind of where we are, bring in an independent consultant to come in and do an analysis of the organization. So we kicked that off. We selected Resource Management Associates. They're out of the East Coast. And a gentleman named Sheldon Cohen was our consultant from them. He was actually on site for the entire week of October 16th. So he was here Monday through Friday, interviewed every single member of staff, every single member of the council, and some others as well. Looked at a lot of our operations, and then actually issued his final report in the middle of December, so that actually is available on the website. But he will be here next Tuesday to formally present the findings of his assessment. So that's what next Tuesday is for, the 16th. And then on the 23rd, that workshop, again, essentially it's a one-topic workshop, and that is where the council will be presented with the essentially what is the final design for the proposed city hall. So we've been working through that process for a little over 1.5 years. So that started with, in 2022, the council identifying that we needed to look at doing a facility assessment specifically on City Hall. Did that in spring, early in 2022. That report was issued by Woodseth in May. Then the council has been going down this process, started with looking at what would it look like to rebuild new versus remodel and expand this City Hall. Because in addition to about $750,000 worth of work that this building needs, we have no space. So there's a lot of spatial concerns. So they looked at what if we expanded this building versus built new, and then in August ultimately chose to proceed down the build new route. So in August, they kicked off the whole design that started with schematic design, and then in November moved into final design. So we've been in that. So in August, on January 23rd, what we'll be doing is myself, our team, Mike Anglin, Lindsey Creans with Woodseth, also our building official Scott Sadusky will be present. We'll kind of walk through all of that. Scott, again, as a building official, will be here to kind of give his professional kind of diagnosis of this building, because that kind of also all really kind of started with him. And then we'll walk through a detailed of where we've landed on a design for the new building. We've had a couple of workshops on this. The last one was in November. And then the council will get presented to that. Public is encouraged to attend. I know the council then wants to take any comment that the public may have on that design. And then the intention would be, and then at their meeting on February 5th, they will consider whether or not to move into the development of construction documents, kind of whether or not kind of that build or no build decision. So that's on January 23rd. On the 16th, we will be issuing the packet for that report, for that workshop. So the designs and the floor plans and the renderings of that building, we will have out a whole week in advance of that meeting for people to review ahead of that meeting. And we'll be recording both workshops as well. So if someone can't attend, they'll always be able to watch the recordings as well. So those are what I have. If you have any questions immediately on those items.
No?
And then Peter, did you have anything?
I don't have a lot of additional stuff, just would like to say thank you for working with me and everything. I appreciate that, and the opportunity to work with the city of Breezy Point on these, and it's going to be exciting and fun. I'm really looking forward to this and getting to know the commission members as well as the council members to help the citizens of Breezy Point out. And then also, as we navigate some of these processes, I do have an open door, open phone line. It's just in the newness of starting and some of the, the people getting sick and stuff like that, I wasn't able to have time to reach out to the council members or the commissioners, but always feel free to absolutely call me if you have any questions on the application, see something ahead of time, absolutely yes. And then I'm excited to look at a few different things too, possibly down the road as we get moving forward on some other things too, like maybe introducing like site visits to the variance hearings and the conditional use hearings, and I just want to be able to take an assessment of what our processes are. I'm not a person that wants to come in and change things like without there's a reason why things are the way they are and they need to be understood before some different things are introduced and things like that. But just talking to fellow coworkers and team members, some of the interest in some of those things, like perhaps where I was working in the county, they never did site visits with a group, whereas in Cross Lake did. I felt that was nice for the board members because it gave them a chance to see something on the ground that maybe doesn't represent in paper really well, and then offers us a chance to, if you have a question like, well, hey, why is this the way it is? We can be like, well, we can have that discussion on site. And then those challenges, just realizing that if we're going to publish or if we do those site meetings, we do have to host it's a public hearing, that members of the public will be able to come on. So I think that's exciting, working with, I'm looking forward to doing a drive of the city and kind of seeing some of the different areas. And I know in just working in different communities, different zoning areas have different nuances and kind of the special considerations they need, and some of the history of the town is also interesting as well too. So if you have anything you feel that I should be apprised of, or if anything you want to be like, hey, this is going to be a topic, or this is something we want to talk about, I'm certainly all ears. And then also too, as we go forward, I know there's been some training opportunities with the League of Minnesota Cities, depending on what we do, I wouldn't mind having, looking into the option of having a training date where we can get, we say like Jason Kabuchek from the, League of Minnesota Cities to come up and, just go over the land use, just refresher course training stuff and things like that. So, yeah, if you have any questions on any of my background or anything like that, as well, certainly let me know, and I'll back it up a little bit just so you have some direction of where I'm at. I live north of Aiken, my family does, my wife and I, and we're kind of north of town there, out on the Mississippi River. We enjoy the lakes area for its rural character and that way of life. So we've been here for about, just about 18 or so years. So we both originally come from Iowa. So don't hold that against me, right? And so. And some of my experience, I was environmental services assistant, or the assistant zoning administrator for Aiken County for a number of years, and then also zoning administrator for the city of Cross Lake. So a lot of fun projects, and every town has its own challenges, flavors, and opportunities as well too. So that concludes my summary there. So
I have one question,
yes.
and this is kind of off the cuff. I seen a pole barn or something being built. There's nothing on the website that you can see if there's a permit on that thing, or is that something I'm not trying to be the
Don't have
permit police.
There's nothing
But-
right now.
Okay.
One of the things that we've actually been working on, actually kind of brought it up to council as part of last year's budget, kind of something we wanted to work out in 2024. And it actually is in Mr. Cohen's, one of his recommendations that he'll be presenting next week in his report is that the city should pursue, we call it new ERP, Enterprise Resource Program, I think, I can't remember exactly. Essentially our software. And one of the things we're looking at is right now from a software perspective, we have financial software and that's about it. And it's 2024 and we need to get a little more techie here, get rid of some of all this paper we have. And so we've already begun kind of preliminary, Assistant City Administrator Ike's been doing reaching out to different providers, different solutions, seeing what they offer. And then in coming months, we'll be talking to council about formally looking into a software to potentially implement in probably 2025. And one of the things we've been looking at different solutions that are out there is not just online or a software that manages our applications, and with each property everything is electronic. But what some of the actual solutions even do, and it's the same one of them is it's called BSNA that the city of Brainerd adopted when I was there. I know the city of Baxter's just doing it right now, and it's kind of on our short list at this point, but some of the other ones do it too, is they actually have a public facing side that you can actually go in and type in an address and see every permit that has been issued to that property. So the answer is not right now, hopefully in the future.
So this building I was talking to in particular, I thought it should have had a CUP, and I don't know, maybe I'll come in and see if they ever got a permit on it.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. I definitely have.
Because it had to be
Those-
1,400 square feet, but, you know,
Where's it at?
I'd rather not say.
Oh,
On your road?
No, it's not.
It was interesting in the permitting world. Some of the stuff that's the most obvious sometimes doesn't have a permit, and
Yeah,
something, not to get into story time necessarily, but, a chicken coop way back in the woods, all of a sudden there's a $20 permit for it back in 1980 that was done, but the brand new addition on the house that's right on the main, so. But yeah, I can certainly look into that. If you bring in the address, we could pull it up and see where it's at, and if they don't have that authorization, I'd certainly reach out to them and make them aware of the process.
so that's kind of hindsight if that's the case, but
And there, after the
I
fact,
don't want to be the permit police either,
yeah, and it's important for, residents to, to follow the ordinances that we all have, and absolutely, and there's processes in place for that, so.
Okay.
Any other staff reports? Okay, any commissioner reports? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.